2023 F1 rules revealed. Shocking changes you need to know. The 2022 F1 season debuted the FIA's plan for the future of Formula One, and we get to see a snazzy new look to the cars. The new F1 regulations saw a total redesign of the cars, both internally and externally. It's safe to say that these changes completely revamped the aerodynamics for a little boxy and more fluid design. F1's new regulations also aimed at making races closer than ever, with changes to DRS. Like any major change in a season, 2022 also came with some unexpected complications faced by teams. Now that we are preparing for the start of the second season of Formula One's revamp, there are some exciting developments coming along. Before tuning in for its official start in March, here's what you should know. 1. 6 sprint car races, twice as much as 2022. The polarizing edition of the F1 race calendar is here to stay. Sprint races are making a return in 2023, with more racing to observe, but also a lot of extra work for drivers. They can be exciting, while also seemingly unnecessary. These races are scheduled to take place in various locations over the course of the season. We've got the following tracks confirmed: Baku in Azerbaijan, Red Bull in Austria, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, Lusail in Qatar, Coda in Texas, USA, and Interlagos in Brazil. For this season, we can expect teams to spend more of their resources on sprints. That's why the budget allocation was reviewed by the FIA and confirmed to receive an increase. The forfeit allowance per team will be doubled to $300K for 2023 and future seasons. Other damage allowances related to sprint races are going to be removed, but it seems like this isn't a problem. Still, it's kind of surprising that just $300K is required for sprint races. One thing is certain, drivers have a lot on their plates this year. The park firm rules for sprint weekends are also receiving a review. This change is aimed to simplify how setups are locked and completed for the weekend. If you're looking forward to the sprints, this is amazing news. For some fans though, the stakes just aren't there. 2. Newer and stronger roll hoops. The start of last year's British Grand Prix came with a moment that was unfortunately familiar in F1. When a big crash happens, feeling your heart suspended for a minute can be an awful sensation. Thankfully, safety in Formula One has never been more amazing. Zhao's crash was a huge scare, yet he came out unscathed. That's an amazing testament to today's safety rules. To make things even better than ever, the roll hoops for cars are getting a slight revamp. Now they will be required to have a rounded top, making it less likely for the hoop to dig into the ground by accident. The specific height of this new rounded top is also getting a minimum length. For the FIA to ensure it works well, this change will be added to the car's physical homologation test. There is a new test that will explore how well the roll hoop stabilizes when there's some load pushing it in a forward direction. It's a bit technical, but just know that drivers aren't going to be risking helmet contact with the ground if their car is flipped. 3. Revised mirrors. Alright, this is a smaller change, but one that can make Lance Stroll into WDC material. Yes, you read that right. We're talking about his biggest kryptonite, mirrors. Mirrors are getting a slight revamp with an increase in the reflective surface by 50mm, making it 200mm. This change was tested in the 2023 season by Mercedes and Red Bull in the Hungarian and Belgian GP. The whole grid gave it a run at the Dutch Grand Prix, and everything seemed to go well, so we are getting them in the regulations from now on. Reduction in minimum weight for cars. This one is a small change at first glance, but in a sport where every single kilo is accounted for, it's going to take a team of problem solvers to make the most of the space they have. Cars are now being reduced from 798 kilograms to 796 kilograms. They'll need to be a lot more careful about where everything goes in the car for this season. You can also expect more liveries to be less decorative, as some teams will be more interested in shedding the weight of a good paint job. The carbon fiber is going to be the staple of this season for sure. 4. Updated regulations for penalties. If you were still keeping up with the season during last year's Italian Grand Prix, the post-qualifying developments were probably just as embarrassing for you as they were for the FIA. How could a multi-million-dollar sport be confused about who goes where? In case you missed it, a good chunk of the grid received grid placement penalties for gearbox and power unit changes. The penalty for doing this beyond the normal season amount is a grid penalty. Fair enough. But since everyone decided to do it the same race weekend, it was hard to tell how many places each driver had to fall. This led to a very confusing stretch for a few hours where drivers, commentators, and fans were confused on what place they'll be starting the race after qualifying. The list was eventually sorted. To prevent this type of situation in the future, the FIA have made the provisions in the rulebooks easier to understand. In a nutshell, it states that when multiple drivers have the same penalty, the order will prioritize the person with a higher qualifying position to start ahead. 5. Ride height and diffusers will be adjusted. After the porpoising problem in the 2022 F1 season, the FIA has added some new height adjustments to the car specifications. Now, cars have floor edges that must be raised by 15 millimeters. At the same time, the diffuser throat height has also been raised, edge stiffness has been increased, and a few other aerodynamic changes have been specified. To top it all off, there's a new sensor dedicated to monitoring the porpoising. With the car weight reduction, this sensor can prove to be another pain for the constructors looking to shed weight in the car. 6. Tire compound allocations in qualifying. Qualifying is a significant part of what a team can do in a race weekend. To make things closer than ever, the FIA is attempting to bring in something new. The revised qualifying format, RQF, is going to receive some testing in at least 2 events in the 2023 season. In the 3-part qualifying seasons, hard tires will only be used in Q1, medium tires in Q2, and soft tires in Q3. During RQF events, each driver will use nothing more than 11 sets of dry weather tires, 4 sets of intermediate, and 3 sets of wet tires. This isn't too far off from the 13 dry tires that are allocated during regular race weekends. It's not going to be fully implemented yet, but the hopes are for success, making F1 a more even playing field. The problem is that certain cars tend to do a better job with some tire compounds. Similarly, some tire compounds are basically awful on tracks, making qualifying less exciting and accident-prone. The change will be impressive if it's a success, but restricting teams' creativity in that manner can be dangerous. 7. Fuel cooling changes. Fueling an F1 car in unpredictable temperatures can have its impact on the car's performance. It's a pretty small change from the outside looking in, but in 2023, the FIA decided that F1 cars should not be colder than the lowest 10 degrees centigrade down from the ambient temperature at any time when the car is running, even after leaving the garage. If the technical words are confusing, don't worry. What this means is that the cars will be more consistently up to speed and stable after being fueled. 8. Gearbox Tweaks. In case you missed it, last season saw a change to how the team's gearboxes were regulated by the FIA. They were only permitted to change the gearbox if there were reliability problems or to save costs at the start of the season. Now, a change has been made to adjust this. Teams will be allowed to modify their gearboxes if materials or parts are unavailable. Manufacturing has taken a big hit since the pandemic, so many teams need to wait to get replacements for specialized parts. In the provision for the new gearbox rules, the FIA specifies that teams must gain prior approval before adding these new parts, and they must not provide a performance advantage. Formula One is a sport that consistently aims to reach new heights in terms of performance and sustainability. In this new season, it's going to be an even newer testing ground for the longevity of the 2022 regulations. We can't wait to find out what it brings. That's all for this video. If you're interested in the costliest mistakes in F1, be sure to check out our next video, the $1 Million Mistakes, the 5 F1's most expensive fines. Get ready to discover just how much a misstep can cost in the high-stakes world of Formula One racing.